It has just been over 6 months since I first received the GPD Win Max, and now with the Win 3 being in production, I think it is a good time to take a second look at the Win Max again, to see how the device has held up over the time for its build quality, real life use cases such as productive tasks, media consumption, or time gaming with the device, follow up on problems that I've encountered in my initial review, or new ones that might have started appearing since then. And lastly, I'll go over if it's still worth the purchase in 2021, if you're planning on getting this over the Win 3. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I still appreciate for watching the video, that already means a lot to me. And maybe you can decide to do so after watching the video. Oh, also while I was quite inactive on my channel, I've been secretly working on a game with a friend, and it is now officially out on Google Play Store. While looking pretty casual, it actually gets quite intense, so if you're into old school arcade game, please give it a shot and share it with your family and friends. But without further ado, let's get the video started. Alright, so despite the Win Max being a solid device all around, and a massive improvement on the build quality, performance, and thermal over the Win 2, I actually have been using the device a lot less than I've expected. And the reason comes down to 3 things. 1. The form factor of the Win Max, and how the device held up after 6 months of use. 2. Games I have and haven't been playing on the Win Max. And 3. How the software between GPD, Windows, and Intel ties the whole experience together. So alright, the form factor. The GPD Win is first and foremost a handheld gaming device. That has been the case with the Win 1, Win 2, and the upcoming Win 3. GPD numbered it like that makes sense. But with the Win Max, they went with something a little different. So gone are the pocketable and lightweight form factor, but in exchange you get a bigger screen, better thermal, and battery. And a full-sized keyboard like something you get with the GPD Pocket. Seeing how people are split on the design of the Win 3 being so small, there are obviously a user base that wants a form factor like the Win Max, just like how some people prefer an iPhone 12 Pro Max and some prefer the 12 mini. And from personal experience, the size and weight of the device is just super important to me, and unfortunately, I fall into the crowd that is actively looking for a device just like the iPhone 12 mini. With the Win Max, I found myself constantly getting hand cramps or having to rest the device on something when I use it. And being a portable device where I sometimes use it in bed when laying down on my side, the Win Max just perfectly fits into my wrist. And in combination with its weight, it's just something I never had to worry about with any portable device I've used before. But with the previous GPD Win models I had, like the Win 2, it is just the device I go to for some quick fix gaming sessions when I don't feel like killing my laptop out. But I never had this urge to do so with the GPD Win Max. And that is really a shame since the D-pad, the buttons, and the analog sticks are all a huge step up from the Win 2, and it'd be perfect for indie games if not for the size. With the 13-inch Razer Blade Stealth being my main laptop, that's someone that is willing to pay more for a smaller device despite the bigger model being cheaper and faster. If you fall into this crowd, you're definitely going to notice the weight and size of the Win Max. Now moving on to the keyboard, it is something I think it can either be a blessing or a curse depending on your use case. Alright, so when using the Win Max on the table, it is actually super comfortable to type on, almost reaching full-size laptop keyboard with its ergonomic, and I've been doing some word processing on it and I don't see that changing anytime soon, so that's pretty great. But that's also a detriment to the ergonomic for portable use, where I find myself having to move my thumb to a pretty uncomfortable level to get any typing done. So depending on your use case, you're either gonna love it or hate it. But that's also another reason why I'm actually really looking forward to the Win 3 for its size and form factor despite only having a capacitive keyboard. Another thing that really stood out to me using the Win Max as a media consumption device is that the speaker's placement is something I never quite got used to, especially while using it in bed where they could be blocked off pretty easily. Furthermore, when the fan gets loud, it does get loud, so much so that GPD has to put in a silent mode that turned down the fan speed, since the fan noise could drown out the speaker sound pretty easily. So it is great to know that the fan noise and the speaker quality are both addressed and vastly improved on the Win 3, at least from the reviews I've seen. However, the Win Max is not all doom and gloom. Despite it not being my dream handheld, it is actually a device I can't live without now that I've had it. As a conventional laptop for productivity and casual use, I don't think the Win 3 form factor could outshine what the Win Max is currently offering. While the fan noise is still an issue, it is still a compromise that I'm willing to make for better thermal and playing emulators like PCSX2 and Dolphin, where the Win 2 is really starting to show its age, and I'm not seeing any alternative on the market that offers such a form factor beyond the inevitable GPD Win Max 2. And that brings us into the gaming aspect of the Win Max. Before I received the device, I was really stoked for playing games like Forza Horizon 4 and Gears 5, and while both of these titles technically works on the Win Max, I found it falling into the same situation I had on the Win 2, where games that push the device to its absolute limit just don't feel all that comfortable to play. The Win Max can just enough maintain a 30 FPS on Forza, but pushing the device this hard never quite sit well with me. So while the Win Max remains decently cooled, this part of the Win Max still gets rather hot. So with that, I ended up using it mostly for last gen titles, such as the ones that I was able to play comfortably already on the Win 2, where they now look and feels even better on the Win Max, being able to push the frame rates and graphics even higher, while not having to worry about the battery and thermal at all. However, I was just a little disappointed that with some of these last gen titles, a locked 60 FPS is just still out of reach for the Win Max. So with these titles, I usually cut the frame rate in half, and opt for better graphic settings, which also keep the device relatively cooled. What the Win Max struggled with the most in my opinion is how much troubles the device had with driver and graphical issues. While GPD isn't the one to blame here, more so on Intel's side, which is honestly a big shame, since this could have been a way better device if not for the software problem, and up until this point, there's still not a reliable driver that the Win Max could settle with. With an unstable driver, it can usually massively decrease the in-game performance or introduce graphic glitches. Games I noticed that have been affected by it are Forza Horizon, where every time you swap a driver will lead to a lengthy optimization state. Just Cause 3, Saints Row 3, Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes all have graphical issues that either makes the game unplayable or put it into an unplayable frame rate. Luckily, the community came in to help and created useful tools to jump between the 8190 driver, which is still at this point the most stable driver, and the latest driver. And while it is obviously not the perfect solution, it is better than what Intel has to offer. Another problem that is caused by the Intel driver is the Win Max's aspect ratio being 16:10. Yes, with a bigger screen, 16:10 is great for web browsing and productivity, but you just never know what you're gonna get with any games or programs, and some just flat out refuses to work without changing the resolution system-wide. Thankfully again, the Win 3 goes back to a standard 720p and 16:9 screen, which is another thing I'm really looking forward to. So to be perfectly honest, if what you're looking for is a device that gives you a balance of productivity and gaming, and none of the things I mentioned in this video bothers you, then you're definitely gonna enjoy what the Win Max has to offer a lot more than myself. However, I'll personally wait just a little longer to see what GPD has been working on with the Win Max 2 that is supposedly also coming out this year, which will hopefully address the weight and software issues that plague the Win Max. And if you think you fall into the category that a small device is more your thing, then hold on just a little longer for the Win 3. As the Win 2 specs is slowly getting just a little outdated to be considered as a viable option at this point. Thanks again for watching all the way till the end, and I hope I'll see you all very soon in the next video.